الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. We just completed Surah Al-A'raf, which is filled with so many lessons and so many kinds of lessons. This is a surah that every Muslim should read over and over again and read the tafsir of it, because it addresses many matters pertaining to Iman, things pertaining to our challenges in life with our own tendencies and weaknesses. It talks about decency and ethics and morals. It talks about halal and haram and lays down the fundamentals, the foundations of understanding halal and haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made indecency haram. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits something, it will go along a certain code. قُلْ إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّيَ الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ وَالْإِثْمَ وَالْبَغْيَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made every kind of indecency haram. مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. That which is obvious and exposed, and that which is hidden, which is not openly done. So many of the things in our deen are prohibited because they lead to indecency. People have many side discussions. They start getting into the technicalities. Which hadith was it? What was the hadith like? And what leeway and what loophole is there in this? And some people bring up a discussion on maqasid al-sharia, what are the objectives of sharia. And they say, oh, as long as the greater objectives are being fulfilled, it's okay, let the small things slide. What they don't realize is that there aren't really small things. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits something, forbids something, it's actually either huge in itself or it's leading to something very, very big and very dangerous. So all of those things that lead to indecency, that lead to the deterioration of haya, Islam has done what's called saddul dhara'i' or saddul bab. Islam has closed the door on those things. Because if you allow those things to continue, then ultimately the outcomes will be fahsha, something of indecency. That includes indecent speech. That includes looking at indecent things, listening to indecent things, thinking of indecent things, indecent interactions, all kinds of indecency. Islam has closed the door on it. And Islam brings people away from these things to a very pure state, to a very pure state of mind, a pure state of body, and a very pure life. Khair, many, many lessons to be learned from this beautiful surah. There are a few stories, several stories mentioned in this surah. One of them is an incident of Bani Israel. And this incident took place in a town called Ayla, and it still exists today on the coast of modern-day Israel. It's called Eilat. So the people there, they were people of Bani Israel. And one of the things that the followers of Musa alayhi salam had done, not out of any instruction from Musa alayhi salam, but they took it upon themselves to take a day off on Saturdays, because they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and earth in 6 days, and then He took a rest, He took a break. So we will also take a break. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِن لُغُوبٍ. Allah says, who said I got tired? Who said I got exhausted? Yes, I created it in 6 days. It doesn't mean I needed a break on the 7th day. Now, which is the 7th day? They said, okay, we'll choose Saturday, because we think that's the day that He took a break on. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So, because of this, because they brought this condition on themselves, then the condition was sustained and imposed on them that you really can't do anything. And you will not be allowed to engage in any worldly activities. Now, because this city is on the coast, this town is on the coast, their major source of livelihood was fishing. So, on one side they have imposed this restriction upon themselves. On the other side, they say, well, what do we do about our fishing? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made things just a little bit more complicated for them. He turned up the intensity just a little bit. And what was that? That all the fish would come on Saturdays. إِذْ تَأْتِيهِمْ حِيتَانُهُمْ يَوْمَ سَبْتِهِمْ وَيَوْمَ لَا يَسْبِتُونَ لَا تَأْتِيهِمْ. The rest of the week, no fish. People are sitting there with their rods, with their nets, not catching anything. On Saturday, you can actually see the fish like literally jumping out of the water. What do we do? They said, okay, we are going to beat the system. We're going to beat the system. How are we going to beat the system? We're going to cast our nets on Saturday, and we're going to dig these little channels where the fish will come in. They can come in, but they can't escape. And we'll do that and let the fish get stuck on Saturday, and then Saturday night we'll go and catch them. So technically we did not fish on Saturday. So they thought they were very clever, very intelligent. And when they started doing this, people in the community found out, and the community got divided into three kinds of people. There were those who were doing this act, this kind of a trick, this stratagem to circumvent the system or the law. Then there were those who didn't participate in it, but they didn't stop them either. They were neutral. Then there were those who didn't participate in this act. In fact, they actively stopped them. They said, don't do this. You're going to draw the wrath of Allah on all of us. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. So you have group A who is breaking that command. Group B who is neutral. They're not breaking the command, but they're quiet. And then group C who is trying to stop those that are breaking the command. So group B, the quiet, neutral people, these are the people who say, just let it go. You know, why all the time you're just talking, doing tabligh, trying to remind, trying to do this and that, just preaching. What's the point of this? In fact, they said, لِمَ تَعِظُونَ قَوْمًا اللَّهُ مُهْلِكُهُمْ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا. Why are you spending your time explaining to these people that Allah is going to either destroy them, Allah is going to destroy them, or He's going to give them, if He doesn't destroy them altogether, He's going to give them a very severe punishment. Now this group C, who is out there reminding their community members, they said two reasons why we keep doing this. There are two reasons why we keep reminding them. One is مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. Tomorrow we have to give an answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you saw this act of disobedience taking place. What did you do to stop it? What did you do? So at least we have some excuse to present in front of Allah that, oh Allah, we tried. We tried. So this is to prepare a udhr, to prepare an excuse in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're doing our job. The second thing is, who knows? وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. Maybe our reminders will have an effect on them, and they will come to their senses, they will fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they'll stop doing this. So they gave this reason and they continued doing their work. Then, after some time, the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did come. These people who were reminding, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I saved them. أَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ السُّوءِ. Those who were making the effort to stop them, even though they were not successful in stopping them. Maybe they lacked influence, maybe they lacked knowledge, maybe they lacked experience, maybe they lacked a lot of things, but they're making their broken effort. But they were stopping them from breaking this command. Allah says, I saved them. وَأَخَذْنَا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا بِعَذَابٍ بَئِيسٍ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْسُقُونَ. And as for the wrongdoers, the zalims, Allah says, I grabbed them, I clutched them with a very terrible, terrifying punishment because of their disobedience. Now here's where it gets interesting. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu was once sitting with the mushaf in front of him and crying profusely. His student Ikrimah, rahimahullah, who studied with him for some 30 years, he came and he sees this great Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam crying. He says, what makes you cry like this? What makes you weep? He said, I came across this verse, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions only one category that He saved. He said, of all of these three groups, He only saved the one that was stopping people from doing wrong. Now I'm reflecting on myself, how many occasions passed in my life where I saw something wrong and I didn't stop it. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's adab came on the other two people, those that were passive and those that were actively disobedient, then what will happen with me on the Day of Judgment when I am called to give account for any occasion in which I was passive? So he cried profusely. So his student Ikrimah rahimahullah tried to console him. He said, no, O Ustad, we hope that by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the other people also, they were saved. And it was only the people that did that act that were destroyed. But he did not have any evidence to back that up. He kept on saying this to console Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. So, in society, there will always be these three categories. There will be those who are disobeying, and those that are not disobeying but they're quiet. I'm doing my own thing. Look, I'm not doing anything wrong. Look, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just doing my own thing. And then there will be those that are trying to make some kind of effort to bring awareness, to remind, to encourage, to motivate, to stop people from doing wrong things. So these are not stories just to tell us about historical facts. These are stories for us to reflect deep inside. How many commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are being broken around us? Perhaps in our own homes, perhaps in our extended families, perhaps in our communities. Who is responsible for this? Who is responsible? The fact is that the whole ummah is responsible. Every single Muslim man and woman are responsible for what happens around them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not made us an ummah of passiveness, that we observe and say, oh, that's really bad. Oh no, that's really bad, that should not be happening, and then that's it. No. We are people of action. So at least amongst our own brothers and sisters, youngsters, elders, whoever needs a reminder, we should make an effort to remind. And everyone needs to do this in their own capacity. And everyone needs to do this so that they also have something to say in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What has happened with us? Very strange things happen to us, very similar to what happened with Bani Israel. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, لَتَتَّبِعُنَّ سُنَنَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ حَذْوَ النَّعْلِ بِالنَّعْلِ. You're going to follow the pattern of the people before you, just as closely as one shoe matches the other shoe. One shoe matches its pair perfectly. They're exactly the same. Just like that, you're going to end up doing the exact same things. How many times in the Quran does it talk about divisions amongst previous ummahs. So what happens with us is we forget about the effort and we start getting into labels. We label people. We label them first in our minds. First the label occurs here. Oh, he's that brand. He's that type. He's of that jamaat. He's of that group. He's of that party. This happens in the mind, and then after it comes out on the tongue. We don't see the effort that people are doing. Right away we have to label it, categorize it, and put it into a class of its own, and then we're going to judge. Are they good? Are they bad? Should we meet them? Should we not meet them? That matches us, that suits us, that doesn't suit us. We're so busy doing this that we lose sight of the effort, which is amr bil ma'roof, nahi anil munkar, da'wa ila al-khayr. These things Allah has laid out in the Quran as our duties. Da'wa ila Allah, inviting towards Allah, inviting towards khair, reviving good, eradicating evil. This is everyone's job. But what did we do? We said, oh, that's that jamaat. These are the people of that jamaat. These are the people of that group. And do I want to affiliate myself with them or not? We lose sight of the objectives that are being achieved, or the objectives that are trying to be achieved, and we start getting into these things. And subhanAllah, today everyone has so many reasons why they shouldn't join other people. We've got a list. Everyone has a list of reasons in their mind why they're not going to participate, because of this mismatch, because this incompatibility, because of this issue, because of that. We have long lists. So how does the work get done? How does the objectives get fulfilled? The ultimate objective is to bring about good and to remove evil from society. And everyone is responsible for that. Not one jamaat, not one group, not one person. Everyone is responsible. So these are some lessons that the surah is giving us. On the Day of Judgment, we all have to answer. Every one of us has to answer. Those people had this sense and awareness that, you know what are we going to say about this circumstance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So similarly, one day we also have to stand in front of Allah and give an answer about the circumstances that we used to see. And then what was our role in that? How effective we were. This is not going to be a basis of judgment of how effective you were. How much effort did you put in? This is going to be the base of judgment. Otherwise, there will be prophets who come on the Day of Judgment with only one follower. And there will be some prophets who come with no followers. Can you imagine? Can we say that they failed? They did not fail. They did exactly what Allah told them to do, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to do it. They succeeded because they did the work that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, the tasks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them. The same thing happens to us. The same thing applies to us. So let's focus on what we are doing, not on what others are doing. Let's focus on our own accountability, not the accountability of others, and things start becoming very, very simple. It becomes easy to join in efforts. It becomes easier to get things done. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and understanding. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا